Watch this video to learn the 5 mistakes that every white belt makes and how to avoid them so that you can get better at jiu-jitsu and get closer to getting that blue belt. What's going on, guys? My name is Josh Settlage and I am the BJJ strength coach. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 5 mistakes that nearly every white belt makes and how you can avoid them so ultimately you can make faster progress on the mat, decrease your risk of injury, win more matches in competition, and get closer to earning your blue belt. Mistake number 1, spazzing. We've all heard the term spaz, and even though we do our best to not be a spaz on the mat, as a white belt, it still happens. Spazzing can be defined as any time you perform explosive, chaotic, uncontrolled movements on the mat. Everyone who does jiu-jitsu is, or at least was, a white belt at some point, and we've all been a spaz at some point in our jiu-jitsu journey. Though on the rare occasion, spazzing can sometimes lead to you getting a lucky escape, but for the most part, spazzing increases your risk of injury, not only to yourself, but also to your training partner. And against more experienced training partners, there's no way you're going to be able to out-spaz their technique, their precision, and their control. One of the simplest ways to avoid being a spaz is to focus on relaxing as much as you can while you're rolling. And if you get into a situation where you're trying a new technique and it's not really working, the answer 99% of the time is to not try to do that technique harder or more aggressively. As a white belt, if you're rolling with an upper belt and you're trying to hit a technique and it's just not working, it's totally okay to stop the roll and ask them for help on how to successfully complete the technique. Like I said, we were all white belts at one point and we were all spazzes at one point. Just be mindful and try your best not to be a spaz. Mistake number 2, not asking questions. If you want to slow your progress in jiu-jitsu to an absolute crawl at a snail's pace and barely improve your skills on the mat and stay a white belt for years to come, all you have to do is never ask any questions. I know it may be intimidating as a white belt to be surrounded by blue, purple, brown, and black belts who all seem to know what they're doing and are able to do the techniques your professor shows a lot faster and have a better understanding. I encourage you to remember that they were all white belts once too, and there was a point in their jiu-jitsu journey where they had tons of questions also. I highly encourage you as a white belt to partner up with as many upper belts as possible. That is where you're going to not only learn the most, but get key insights on how to fix little mistakes that you may not even recognize that you're making. When you're partnering with an upper belt, be sure to ask plenty of good questions. The more questions you ask, the more you'll be able to gain an understanding of jiu-jitsu. The deeper understanding you have, the faster you'll be able to learn and enhance your progress on the mat. Mistake number 3, avoiding strength training. If you're a white belt who's been doing jiu-jitsu for any amount of time, you've probably experienced your own aches and pains. Your neck and shoulders may be really sore after class, and maybe you even tweaked your knee or your elbow once or twice. As a white belt, it's important to note that if you see yourself doing jiu-jitsu for the foreseeable future, you should be doing everything you can to decrease your risk of injury on the mat. While you're on the mat, one of the best ways to decrease your risk of injury is to not be a spaz and to ask upper belts lots of good questions. However, the number one thing you can do off the mat to decrease your risk of injury on the mat is to get stronger. If you're a white belt or black belt who is incorporating strength training into their week, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below and let me know how strength training has helped decrease your risk of injury on the mat. And for those of you who aren't convinced that strength training is going to help decrease your risk of injury, here's the deal. No one ever got injured because they were too strong. When your muscles, your ligaments, and your tendons all get stronger, that means that they are more resilient to the stressors of jiu-jitsu. This means that you're less likely to get injured and are able to spend more time on the mat instead of off on the side with an injury. And if you need help getting started on how to strength train for jiu-jitsu, go ahead and click the link in the description below and you can download a free 4-week strength program. Mistake number 4, holding your breath. Holding your breath or breathing out your mouth. Being able to control your breathing is very important for jiu-jitsu. Do you remember from Karate Kid 3 when Daniel-san was training with Terry Silver and he was talking about his Quicksilver fighting system?
Rule number 2 of the Quicksilver method. A man can't breathe. You can't fight.
And in jiu-jitsu, if you can't control your breathing, it's only going to be a matter of time before you exhaust yourself and burn out and eventually get submitted. Now, if you're still watching, I want to give you one secret tip and method that is by far the easiest and simplest way to improve your conditioning as fast as possible. And it's going to be focusing on breathing in and out of your nose. This is called nasal breathing. Nasal breathing allows you to breathe more efficiently, which means you can take in more oxygen while using less energy. Breathing in and out of your nose while you're rolling is also more effective in intaking oxygen and delivering that oxygen to the working muscle. This can help increase what's known as your blood lactate threshold. Your blood lactate threshold is essentially the limit of the pace that you can sustain on the mat before you redline and burn out. As you're rolling, slow your pace down a little bit, focus on breathing in and out of your nose while you're sparring with your training partners, and you'll eventually become more proficient with nasal breathing. As you start to become more acclimated and more used to breathing in and out through your nose, you'll gradually be able to increase the intensity at which you're rolling while still maintaining nasal breathing. Mistake number 5, not tapping early and not tapping often. This is arguably the biggest mistake that anybody could make in jiu-jitsu. And I get it, as a white belt, you're hungry to learn more, you're hungry to make progress, and you're really trying to not constantly get submitted all the time. And sometimes your ego is gonna get the best of you. Maybe someone puts you in a really tight armbar or in a really tight choke, and maybe every once in a while, you wait to the absolute last second to tap. Let me tell you, my friend, that this is a very dangerous game. If you wanna do jiu-jitsu for the foreseeable future, and preferably do it with as little injuries as possible, it's important that you learn to tap early and tap often. As a white belt, as soon as someone has you in a submission that you don't know how to escape from, it's okay if you just tap, even if it isn't as tight as possible. From there, you can ask your training partner how to prevent that submission from happening or how to escape that submission. Speaking from my own experience, when I was a white belt, I was a complete dingus, and I would wait to the very last second to tap to chokes and joint locks. I'd often let my ego get the best of me, and I would grit out as hard as possible not to tap until the very last second, and it unfortunately led to a very serious neck injury that resulted in nerve damage in both of my arms. This meant that I had to spend way more training sessions that I would have liked off on the sidelines watching instead of on the mat training. I can thankfully say that I've been able to rehab, and the nerve damage in my arms is very minimal, but I learned my lesson. It doesn't matter if you're a white belt or a 10-year black belt, tap early and tap often. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Josh Setledge, and I am the BJJ Strength Coach. If you found value in this video, I'd love if you subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting a lot more content that's going to help you win more matches and get injured less. And feel free to drop a comment below on what mistake you feel you've made the most as a white belt. And to learn more about how you can get stronger so you can win more matches and get injured less, click the link in the description below and you can download a free 4-week strength program. Catch you guys later. Peace.